Madam Secretary, will you please call the roll?
Would you like to start with the pledge?
Sure. Why not?
Break routine here.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
See, that's the former legislator in me, Audrey, that waits for the roll call to let members assume. But this body is so good at attendance. We're all here bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. So thank you. Now will you please call the roll?
Sure. Director Anderson? Director Buchanan?
Here.
With the necessary paperwork completed. Director Colson?
Here.
Director DeWitt?
Here.
Director Durante? Director Frega?
Here.
Director Fuentes?
Here.
Director Hobson?
Here.
Director Lewis?
Here.
Director McGallis? Director Melvin?
Here.
Director Pang? Director Ross?
Here.
Director Totten?
Here.
Director Troiani?
Here.
Chairman Dillard?
Here.
We have a quorum of 12 present, 4 absent. We are good to go.
Great. Thank you, Audrey, very much. The first item of business is 3A on our agenda, and it's a report on the executive session docket review and the approval of the minutes from the meetings held on August 25th, 2016 is what I've got on my report.
Sorry.
Is that the wrong date, Nadine?
We covered the docket review at the last board meeting.
It's just the minutes.
It's just the minutes.
Yeah, which are in our packet.
Correct.
Because I just looked at them again this morning. Okay, so it's for the minutes only. Are there any questions on that? They're pretty self-explanatory, fairly detailed. If not, can I have a motion and a second that we approve those minutes from the executive session?
And the regular meeting.
And the regular meeting. Director Frega moves that we approve this, seconded by Director Don DeWitt. Why don't you, Audrey, take a roll call so we've got a baseline attendance roll call.
Okay. Director Buchanan?
Aye.
Director Colson?
Aye.
Director DeWitt?
Yes.
Director Frega?
Aye.
Director Fuentes?
Aye.
Director Hobson?
Yes.
Director Lewis?
Aye.
Director Melvin?
Yes.
Director Ross?
Aye.
Director Totten?
Aye.
Director Troiani?
Aye.
Chairman Dillard?
Yes.
We have 12 ayes and 4 absent.
Great, and that will be so reported. Thank you. Next is item 4, the public comment segment of the meeting, and we have no speakers scheduled today under that item of business, although we will have a guest presenter in a couple of moments. So we'll move on to item 5, which is the Executive Director's Report. Leanne Redden, it's all yours, Leanne.
Good morning, and I'll keep it moving along too since we have a fairly light agenda. So we will begin where we, as I say, where we always begin. July 31st, 2016, the state's delinquency to us was $268.2 million. Administrative and interest costs incurred by the RTA for maintaining that short-term debt to provide liquidity to the service boards during this sort of delay in delinquency has risen to $2.5 million in 2016. We are, though, expecting, even though this number's creeped up a little bit, we are expecting a payment from the state later this month. So moving on to Washington, they are back. Both the House and the Senate returned on September 6th after a 7-week vacation or break period. The goal for them is to finish some legislative business before the election comes up, which is pretty fast approaching. Congress will spend really the better part of September working on a temporary spending bill that essentially will allow us to keep the government functioning past October 1st. Both House leadership and appropriators have voiced their support for this, but we are still waiting for action to be taken. We're anticipating that the stopgap measure would fund the government through mid-December. On another note, the USDOT released the Metropolitan Planning Organization Coordination and Planning notice of proposed rulemaking. So that was a notice that we've all been put on notice that they're considering amendments or modifications to how MPOs, Metropolitan Planning Organizations around the country, are structured. The new rule really has received significant input and focused mostly on concerns from transportation stakeholders about how this could impact the structure, the function, and the flow of funds to metropolitan planning organizations. I don't really have much to report at this point, except we did weigh in on that. We did send a letter to DC expressing our questions and our concerns about some of this, and we will keep you posted as that develops. One essential, kind of a business item that I do have to bring to your attention. So we are the designated recipient as the RTA overseeing federal funds out of the Section 53 federal funding program. And as that designated recipient, we manage the projects across the region that spend down on these dollars. We are officially, as of today, opening the public comment for 30 days. We will be releasing a list, and they're listed up here, of a series of projects that we are supporting. We are proposing to essentially actually continue to fund out of this pot of federal dollars. So these are all previously approved by this board and by the federal government and are currently receiving $5310. We want to continue to fund those projects. They have all also been reviewed by by IDOT, CMAP, and the RTA, who are essentially the group that look at these projects and decide whether they're eligible. We will be looking to allocate $4.2 million in available federal funding of the $6.6 million of the Northeastern Illinois 2015 appropriation. The remaining $1.7 million will go to IDOT so they can continue to administer grants for the purchase of small vehicles that support these kinds of services. We actually kind of have a joint function in spending and managing these $5310. No actions required of the board today. I just wanted to make it aware and formally announce that we're in our 30-day public hearing period. We will intend to come back to the board next month for your actual formal sign-off on this program of projects to continue the federal dollars funding flowing. It does not include any RTA dollars. No RTA regional dollars have to be spent on this. It is all federal dollars matched by the actual local agencies that work with us on these projects. That is the business item that I wanted to sort of bring to your attention. And one quick thing that I wanted to highlight, earlier this week, the RTA received the Grand Award in the 2016 American Public Transportation Association AdWheel Awards competition for our Ride On consumer marketing campaign. APTA had its annual meeting and conference over the weekend and earlier this week, and that's where we received this award. Ride On was voted the best large agency campaign to increase ridership and sales and awareness of the transit system. As part of the award ceremony, which were held, as I mentioned, at the annual meeting, RTA staff participated in a panel discussion with the other winners, talking about sort of our efforts and our activities with the campaign. So let me just quickly show you. You guys can start that, or do I start that? They're starting it. Okay. This was a quick little video that ran at the award ceremony highlighting the program. Okay, play. Well, maybe it'll play.
Here it goes.
What is it? Thinking. Well, while we're waiting for that to start, at that same conference, I just wanted to highlight that the service boards also received an innovation award from APTA also for the Ventra app that the region developed. RTA did fund a chunk of that app development, so that was nice to get recognition amongst our peers for that national innovation effort. and I'm not sure that this is actually going to work. I would like to also thank, oh, maybe it is? No. Okay. And the video, that is actually very well done. I want to thank Pace's marketing staff actually for, we've talked about through all this effort that it has been a collaborative effort, and Pace actually helped us put together this little summary video that we submitted to APTA for the presentation and incorporated the amazing voiceover of our very own Susan Massal. So sorry, if it comes back up, we can show it to you.
Leanne, can you send us each an email with
The link?
a link?
Absolutely, yeah.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
You know, and it's ironic, as I watched that circle go around, I was telling Susan today, listening to the radio, and it never ceases to amaze me why, unless you have to, why people drive. Today is the 4th day in a row this week of travel times on every Chicago expressway pushing 1.5 hours. An hour, 50 minutes in from Thorndale on the Eisenhower, and almost 2-hour travel times in from O'Hare. Why people don't ride mass transit, you know, unless you have to drive, and we have to do that from time to time. But how folks do that every day is just beyond me.
Well, let me just add, and Director Pang was intending to be here at this meeting. She flew in early this morning and is trying to get here from O'Hare, but she was traveling with the CEO of her company, and she said she'd wish she'd made him take transit. Hope she doesn't mind me spilling the beans on that. Yeah, I don't know. Okay, B, can you click on that with the mouse, since it'll be. Okay.
Had it right there.
I don't know. Hang on, what's down here? No,
Picked up
don't
that
take over
mouse.
my mouse. They're taking over my mouse. I can't tell what he's doing. Okay, I can't see what he's doing. Okay. So that's it. We can send you.
There you go.
Okay.
Boom.
Does he want me to do it or not? I don't know if he wants me to do it or not. There we go.
Public transportation is the lifeblood of the Chicago region. The Chicago Transit Authority, Metro Commuter Rail, and Pace Suburban Bus provide more than 2 million rides each weekday. Despite rush hour service that is sometimes filled to the brim, there are times of the day when there are empty seats. In 2015, the Ride On campaign was launched by the Regional Transportation Authority in collaboration with the CTA Metro and Pace to help address this challenge. The campaign is specifically aimed at growing ridership in the recreational, visitor, and reverse commute markets. Knowing that most consumers understand the practical reasons to take public transit, Ride On plays to the rider's emotional side. It highlights the everyday reasons to ride. Ride On takes a unique approach to promoting public transit by using humor to remind consumers of all the frustrating aspects of not riding transit in a major urban area like Chicago. The campaign makes it very clear that the benefits of taking transit are many. It enhances their lifestyles by saving time, money, and offering peace of mind. The Ride On campaign is an integral part of the RTA's strategy to increase awareness of the transit system and improve perceptions of the region's transit agencies. Using a combination of digital and traditional advertising, Ride On promotes taking transit in a way that speaks directly to riders. So next time you visit the Chicago region, make sure you ride on and avoid an experience like this.
Please insert more money. Please insert more money.
Really?
More money, more money, more money. Are you crying?
No.
So we got there. And that ends my presentation.
Any questions? Yes, JD, Director Ross.
I have 2 questions. Can you tell me how we solicit input for the public comment for the 5310 funds?
We do. Well, we primarily post, because these are existing projects that are continuation of funding, we post this on the website and solicit input spend through the Human Services Transportation Plan and the working group, which is actually made up of representatives across the counties that do most of the special service programs across our region. They actually provided us inputs into the overall plan, which also identified projects. So essentially, we're sort of working our way through that plan. Those groups are all very actively engaged and then help network out to get feedback and inputs and comments on projects as well.
Thank you.
Right. Any other questions for Leanne? Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate that. Next is I'm going to turn it over to Director Lewis for purposes of an introduction, but each of you has at your seat there the Connecting Cook County Long Range Transportation Plan. And Director Lewis, I'll turn it over to you, my friend.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I am pleased to introduce John Yonan, who's the superintendent of the Cook County Department of Transportation and Highways. He's going to present the Cook County Long Range Transportation Plan, as the chairman referred to as Connecting Cook County. But before John starts, just a couple of things. As you may know, our Cook County Board President, Tony Pratt-Krenkel, has two appointees, myself for the RTA Board and also Romaine Brown on the Metro Board. And we were made aware of the study, and actually Leanne, as well as a cross-section of transportation leaders and thought leaders have worked on this plan, because Cook County had not had a transportation plan, a comprehensive transportation plan for over 70 years. Last time it was done was over 70 years ago. So first of all, it's just almost tragic that it has taken so long for that to take place. But what's kind of interesting when you look at the plan is a lot of the planning that took place 70 years ago was really very forward thinking, because a lot of the things that are in that plan actually have come to fruition as we look at how we've actually mapped out our grid for transportation. However, I think the main message is that there's an interdependency, and if Northeast Illinois is going to grow, you've got to have a transportation plan that is not only passenger transportation, but transportation for goods and services, intermodal, and it needs to be coordinated. Cook County is not an isolated island. It really is interdependent on the other counties that surround Cook County and collaborating with those counties as part of what this plan suggests. So I think that what John will explain to you this morning is how this plan is comprehensive. It comes together. It anticipates the kind of collaboration we've seen here at the RTA level, which has really been, I think, a refreshing change, and really kind of kicks off what can be a new era of strategic thinking and planning to help our area continue to grow and prosper. So with that preamble, I'm going to turn it over to John, who's much more knowledgeable about this than I am, but I'm excited to hear this plan presented this morning.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Director Lewis, Chairman Dillard, directors, and the RTA executives for this opportunity to talk about the Long Range Transportation Plan. And I thank you, Chairman Dillard. The traffic conditions, the things that you mentioned, I think are going to fit perfectly with what the rest of this presentation is going to kind of discuss. So Connecting Cook County provides a framework through which the county officials, under the leadership of President Pratt-Krenkel, can play for the future, advocate for sound transportation policies, and most importantly, take action. Our long-range transportation plan is the first step in continuing to move Cook County forward. Connecting Cook County establishes the policy priorities that will serve as our guiding principles in future transportation and infrastructure decisions. We'll talk in detail about our priorities in a few minutes, but I first want to provide a little background information. All right. Nope, I'm good. So there we go. Sorry, I just pressed the button. As Executive Lewis had mentioned earlier, it's been a while since we've completed our last plan, 76 years to be exact. In August of 1940, Cook County and the Highway Department, again, before there was an IDOT, before there was a Federal Highway Administration, laid out the expressway system that you see on this particular map. The dark black roads within the city of Chicago were already designed and in some cases built by the Highway Department. And then what you see in red was the planned vision of what these superhighway systems would look like. The layout of this expressway system was on a peak travel period, which was a Sunday at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. and that was going to the forest preserves that were outside of the Chicagoland area. One of the themes that we've talked about throughout the development of our long-range transportation plan was the complex transportation network. The map on the left displays the roadways which are under county's jurisdiction. Again, there's 4 layers of jurisdiction. You have state roads, county roads, municipal roads, and township roads. And so the map on the left represents the county roads that are approximately about 5% of all roadways in Cook County. The map on the right shows all the transportation facilities serving Cook County, and the cluttered nature of this graphic highlights the complexities and challenges in developing a comprehensive long-range transportation plan, and it makes it clear that Cook County can't afford to focus only on the roads under its jurisdictional control. Coordination and collaboration are critical to addressing our current and future year mobility needs, and we need to look beyond our roadways. When starting the plan, we understood the realities of the situation we're facing and where we needed to go. We want our system to provide for the safe and efficient movement of people and goods, to support the economy and to create more livable communities, and to be an integrated, multimodal, multi-purpose system. However, we recognize the challenges that historical foundations of too many silos, funding issues, and priority focus on roads would have to change. And in most cases, these are realities that we can't change overnight or on our own. President Preckwinkle understands the importance of transportation to the county's economy and the community's health. She knows for too long Cook County has sat back while others made decisions affecting residents and businesses in the county. It's time for Cook County not only had a seat at the table, but also played a leadership role in creating a modern transportation system that meets changing consumer needs and responds to the demands of a 21st century economy. Cook County has more than half the metropolitan region's population, jobs, and businesses, and is uniquely vested in the health and sustainability of our transportation system. For these same reasons, we are also uniquely positioned to lead that change. This plan was not only meant to be another report that sits on the shelf, but its intent is a call to action not only for the county, but for all our partners and regional implementers as well. The process of creating the plan was not taken lightly. We worked with literally thousands of people to make sure that we fully understood the existing needs of our communities, captured the resources that the existing transportation system lays out, and identified the right priorities for the county. This took gathering input from residents, business, transportation stakeholders from around the region, including the Executive Director, Redden, who was part of our implementation team. And we strongly believe this plan is an exciting new vision and action plan for the region, so let me walk you through it. Cook County's transportation system is one of our greatest assets. Our transportation system plays a much larger role than just local or regional mobility. It's a key reason why we're the hub of both passenger travel and freight shipments nationally and internationally. Anyone that lives, works, or visits Cook County knows we're a transportation hub of the nation. It's obvious from these statistics on this slide that the demands for our networks are immense. But, however, did you also know that every workday Cook County residents take more than 19 million trips? More than half of these trips are made for shopping and personal business. Work-related trips account for 1 in 7 trips. Our transportation system must give people a range of choices for how to accommodate this wide variety of trips. We are also one of the largest freight hubs in the nation. As the busiest port in North America, the Chicago region handles 15.4 million shipping containers annually. In 2012 alone, the freight cluster moved more than 925 million tons of freight valued at over 1.3 trillion directly in and out of the region, supporting over 176,000 jobs and generating $12.3 billion in personal income. In sum, Cook County's freight assets are critical to our region, state, and national economy and cannot be taken for granted. In developing the plan, however, we couldn't just look at just today's needs and demands. We also had to look at how the county's landscape is changing. For instance, Cook County is expected to add more than 850,000 new residents and 500,000 new jobs by 2040. Our population is going to change over the next 25 years. By 2040, population under the age of 29 will total nearly 2.3 million, representing 38% of the county's population. The population over 65 will also grow by 66%. Our plan has to anticipate the new demands these shifts will place on our transportation system. To meet these needs, Cook County has a rich and complex inventory of transportation assets and services. The resources, which are very clear to you, gathered here today. We have the largest and most extensive public transit system in the country. Much of the infrastructure is concentrated in Cook County. Approximately 66% of metro stations are located in Cook County. Approximately 57% of metro's trips originate within the county, and approximately 80% of all PACE fixed route trips serve Cook County. We have a massive road network consisting of interstates, regional arterials, and county roads that move goods by truck and help make the region the freight's capital of North America. Approximately 70% of the freight is moved through Chicago, travels by truck. It comes as no surprise that 11 of the 20 bottlenecks, as you see here, are in the Midwest and are located in Cook County, shown with the yellow dots that you see. The American Transportation Research Institute estimates that Cook County has the highest cost of congestion to trucking firms, pegged at $933 million. We also have to make it easier for freight to move if the region wants to hold on to its position as a premier freight hub. Our current network is multimodal. In addition to our roads and public transportation networks, we have miles of railroad right-of-way that serve commuters and facility freight shipments. While the vast majority of all trips in Cook County are by personal automobile or public transit, there are many other transportation options that play a crucial role in the county's transportation system. Bike sharing, car sharing in particular, have proven to be a very popular and in many instances are providing that last mile connection from transit stops to final destinations. They are not just Cook County assets. 168 government entities and numerous private companies within the county are responsible for maintaining and implementing these services. Let's look at the priorities. The county's existing transportation system and resources are extensive, but it's not meeting the needs of many current users. And clearly, it's not sufficient to meet future year demands. Although the county enjoys a substantial foundation of transportation infrastructure and services, it cannot rely on its history of leadership and investment. Other regions across the country and around the world are continuing to modernize and expand their transportation system. And if Cook County does not do so, it will lose its competitive advantage, damage its economy, and make the county a less attractive place to live and work. To meet this challenge, Cook County has adopted the 5 policy priorities. These policies will shape the county's work and serve as the foundation for collaborative efforts with the many public agencies and private agencies responsible for providing these transportation services. I'd like to walk through these 5 priorities. The number 1 priority is transit, and our number 1 priority is public transportation. Ridership in the Chicago metropolitan area has been stagnant over the last several decades, in part because the region invests less per capita on the basis of many international and domestic urban counterparts. Furthermore, Cook County has long prioritized the automobile as the preferred mode of personal travel by focusing on roads and bridges to the exclusion of other modes. Cars, of course, will continue to have a central place in serving the mobility needs of county residents. However, the county must complement its road work with transit improvements and fully embrace other modes such as walking, biking, car sharing, and ride sharing. The county fully supports CMAP's goal of doubling transit ridership by 2040, expanding transit services either through better use of existing resources or the development of new capacity. These will be the priorities of Cook County, the number 1 priority of Cook County. We also have identified freight as a priority, industry sector to support because it provides a competitive advantages that few other regions enjoy. It's a source of jobs for our residents and profits for local companies. Metropolitan Chicago's freight cluster has the potential to add jobs and businesses at a faster rate than any other commercial sector, and in greater numbers than the 2 largest freight centers in the U.S. But the transportation system must enable that growth. Some efforts are already underway, such as the CREATE program and the streamlining of truck permits, which is a multi-county initiative. These will require some renewed support and revitalization from our partnerships. Other problems such as the more fundamental capacity constraints facing the rail industry or the need for an overarching approach to the issues affecting the trucking sector will require new solutions and continued partnerships with the public and private sector. Our third priority is equity. The purpose of transportation is to provide access to opportunities. Transportation is the way people get to jobs, school, healthcare, recreational activities, and more. Within Cook County, however, transportation and the opportunities they afford are not equally distributed. The inequity in access to quality transportation facilities, jobs, and services is pronounced in Southern Cook and getting worse. Residents of South Cook have the longest commutes to the lowest areas of jobs within the county. Cook County has launched a pilot program in the Southland to address some of the disinvestment and to help stimulate the economy. The fourth priority is to maintain and modernize the transportation facilities we have. While we can easily get caught up in wanting to invest in new fancy transportation projects or services, we must acknowledge that we've already have significant assets that require our attention. Maintaining what exists will be a priority for Cook County. Failure to maintain what already exists will have major negative consequences. By postponing regular maintenance, agencies significantly add to their long-term costs. It is 3 or 4 times more expensive, of course, to reconstruct the pavement than it is to rehabilitate it, but we also must embrace new technologies as a way to modernize our system to make more efficient use of our limited resources. For example, we need to prepare for automation, smart technologies, and be ready to capitalize on these opportunities. And our fifth priority is to increase our investments in transportation. The Texas Transportation Institute indicates that the cost of congestion in the Chicago region is the 3rd highest in the nation. The Metropolitan Planning Council in Chicago places the cost of congestion as high as $7.3 billion per year. That's a cost which is borne largely by Cook County businesses and residents. To make a dent in this level of congestion, we need to be smarter about how we spend our money we already have and find additional funding. Cook County will push for real allocation of existing and new funds in ways that will align with its transportation priorities at the local, state, and federal level. President Preckwinkle took an important first step in the front by ending the longstanding practice of diverting motor fuel tax dollars to other county services. This means that the Department of Transportation and Highways will have approximately $45 million more in transportation investments in 2017. Moreover, we'll continue to apply for federal state competitive grants. It's a lot easier to do when you're not diverting your motor fuel tax to provide for some of these additional revenues. Implementing the priorities. To realize the full potential of the region's transportation system, the county must be a leader in restoring and enhancing these transportation assets and services. We've already begun to change how we go about doing business at the Transportation Department, and I'd like to highlight a few examples before opening it up for some questions. Though the plan was just adopted, we have already been implementing transit priorities for the region, our number 1 priority at the Rosemont Transportation Center. Again, in collaboration with the RTA, this undeveloped land around this Blue Line station at Rosemont was actually owned by Cook County. It was a discovery in the process that we actually owned it. We thought the CTA owned it. So that was relatively revelational to, again, the credit of the President's administration. And it has presented Cook County with an opportunity to build a multimodal transportation center. Cook County, again, in collaboration with the RTA, is in the process of redeveloping the site and build a state-of-the-art transportation center. Cook County's contribution of $2.26 million to the 606, again, a project that was a rail-to-trail that helps connect the communities in the city of Chicago, matched the city of Chicago's local share of the project. Freight capital, we've been already working to address critical freight routes in our region. What you see in this slide here is Toohey Avenue. That's between Mount Prospect and Elmhurst Road. It was a state jurisdictional roadway that was part of the Elgin O'Hare off-system improvements. Cook County and the Department of Transportation decided to take the lead on this so that federal dollars could be used if we did an off-system improvement. Tollway can't use federal money on some of the projects since they go through their own federal or preliminary engineering process, and so this particular project gave the county an opportunity to do a grade separation at the Union Pacific Trail, feeding into the Des Plaines Industrial and Elk Grove Industrial Corridor. This roadway is being designed or led by Cook County and it's going to have a grade separation and a bunch of ramps accessing to the Jane Addams and the future western bypass of the Elgin O'Hare Expressway. Equal access, we've already participated in the county's South Suburban pilot to incorporate opportunities in and around economic developments in some of these distressed communities. Major initiative coming from the President's Council of Economic Advisors. This pilot is designed to create a combination of jobs, housing, retail, and other amenities that attract and retain key segments of the regional population by linking growth to strategies addressing public safety and healthy communities. The department has been supporting this effort by rebuilding truck routes essential to retaining and growing area industries. The county's $20 million investment of our local dollars in these routes is supporting businesses that employ 1,170 workers, and these particular businesses have invested $62 million of their own and expected to add 420 new jobs. Modernizing and maintaining our network to accommodate new services, of course, is critical to Cook County. Several county expressways and tollways have or are planning special facilities to accommodate PACE bus service. Of course, you know all about I-55, but Cook County is also actively engaged in planning for the reconstruction of the Central Tri-State I-294 and strongly encouraging the tollway to use lanes for transit as part of this project. We think there's a key link to the 294 corridor that if a transit envelope is created, there's an incredible opportunity for Southern Cook to be able to have access to the second largest job centers, which is around O'Hare Airport. So we're strongly advocating for an additional lane or some special use of transit on the 294 corridor. So thank you for your interest in Connecting Cook County presentation, and we look forward to working with you to help implement and address some of our priorities and ultimately turn our vision into reality. So again, I want to thank Executive Director Redden for being a part of our long process of putting this plan together. We're going to be delivering a copy of it with just a little note from the President to all board members. So that will be hopefully in the mail in the coming weeks. So thank you again. I'll open it up for any questions.
John, let me just ask one question. What are some of the near-term priorities that you might need this board to help focus on that have been prioritized in terms of this plan?
Sure. So first and foremost, with the plan completed, one of the things that we have as a very great resource is the largest allocation of motor fuel tax dollars. It's a great revenue source that allows us to match federal dollars, and we know that a lot of local agencies, again, including this agency, having match money is a very great thing to be able to have, and motor fuel tax can be used for match. We're down in Springfield, and we need the RTA's help to be able to advocate for the fact that we want motor fuel tax dollars to go to transit projects. We want it to go towards rail-type improvements. So legislatively, we want to take that initiative, and again, we'd really look for your support on that. So that there are a couple projects that are right now queuing up. We look at, for instance, President Preckwinkle wants to really strongly advocate for 75th Street Corridor Improvement Program as part of CREATE. We know that there's a huge benefit for Metra as part of that project, and not to mention, again, the freight network system throughout the area. So we want to be able to just, again, strongly come out and be the leading agency. We've met with Secretary Blankenhorn and the CREATE partners, and again, even though we're not a part of CREATE, we want to be one of the leading agencies that advocates for funding in the fast lane application that will be going in early next year. You heard talk a little bit about the Blue Line station and the opportunities that we have, again, to really make that a multimodal station. We know that as a county level of government, we're uniquely positioned that we can pivot towards some of the locals and work with mayors and managers, but then also pivot to work with federal state partners. And so we look for some support on that particular project. And then again, there's various grade separations, Director Lewis, right there at Volmer Road in your community that we know we need, again, a collaborative effort to work with Metra on that grade separation that we'll be funding in the near future. So many opportunities, but I will, I could keep going, but I'll leave that to some one-on-one discussion later. So.
Great, John. Thank you, Superintendent, very much. I have just a quick question, or actually it's a suggestion. Make sure that you send your plan, and I'd probably do it under President Preckwinkle's signature, but I would send a copy of that plan personally to the governor. He's got staff, and IDOT's wonderful, but I would have her, with her stature, send a copy with a note to the governor himself. I bet you he reads it, and he'll take it to heart. I'd also send a copy to Tim Newting, who is the state's budget director. We've had lots of discussions with Mr. Newting, who understands probably better than he wishes to the mass transit not only needs but funding processes. So I'd get it to the state's budget director as well. And you probably already have, but I'd make sure that every legislator from Cook County has a copy of your plan, because they're our partners in Springfield when we're advocating not only for operating money, but even more importantly into the future for capital money. But thank you, Superintendent.
Yeah,
Great.
thank you,
This is
Chairman.
a great report. And I'm going to send a note to President Preckwinkle thanking her for putting Michael Lewis on our board, commending you, but also thanking her. She has been very much engaged in transportation. I went to see her early to ask for her support to be the chairman of this board. And she's somebody who personally in her life, through her father who worked for the railroads and others, has a deep understanding of Cook County transportation needs. So she's a tremendous asset to it. So we thank her for you, and thank you for being here today. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you.
Any other questions? Yeah, Director Colson has a question for you, Superintendent.
Yeah, as I read the report, there's going to be an effort to prioritize capital projects. Am I reading that correctly? And if so, how's that going to work? I mean, are you going to release some kind of a list
So,
ranking the projects?
so the one thing with our plan is what we wanted to make sure is that we didn't come up with a plan that lists projects. First and foremost, it's priorities, because then the projects could kind of then fall into place. And with our number one priority being transit, we have those couple transit priority projects like the Rosemont Station, but we are going to kind of in the coming weeks look to do kind of a grant program where we're going to work with mayors and managers, look at some of the transit needs that they have. You look at that Toohey Avenue, and it's a Pace bus stop where the residents of a major trailer park stand on grass waiting for a metro station or a Pace bus to pick them up. So working with an incorporated Elk Grove, working with some of these villages, we're going to enhance the transit system and do things like a bus shelter or a sidewalk. We know some of the needs that are out there, and again, we intend to be working with the 130 mayors and managers in the county to see ways that we could help grant fund some of the things that they have as priorities.
Are you going to list various projects, though, in terms of the priorities?
Yeah, that will be the next step, as once we get the grant out there in the word, then we're going to have the projects come in, and then we'll list which ones we're going to be funding, and that will be an ongoing annual process. Correct. And congratulations, by the way, for yesterday's meeting. So.
Thank you. All right. Next, moving right along, is the and Michael Lewis, Director Lewis. Thank you very much. Item 7 is the approval of the consent item as it appears on the board's agenda. And today, that's 7A, and that's the ordinances authorizing the quarterly capital amendment for the second quarter of 2016. Are there any questions or comments on that? If not, I'd entertain a motion and a second. Moved by Director DeWitt, seconded by Director Christopher Melvin. Is there leave for the attendance roll call? Seeing no objection, leave is granted.
12 ayes, 4 absent.
Thank you, Audrey. Item 8 is new business. Any new business items for us today? Seeing none, I want to remind everybody that the next regularly scheduled board meeting with committee meetings before it is Thursday, October 20th. It's hard to believe we're into October. We'll see where the Cubs are on October 20th. So next is executive session. Nadine, you want to give us the reasons we can go into executive session? And there is no reason for us to come back to a full session. So when Nadine is finished giving us our legal reasons for being able to go into executive session, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn. Nadine?
pursuant to subsection 2C11 of the Open Meetings Act, if the board would vote to adjourn from executive session, we could then move into the discussions regarding litigation.
Super. So we will resolve ourselves into executive session, and if I can have a motion, we'll adjourn this meeting. Moved by Director Fuentes that we adjourn, seconded by Director Douglas Trione. And with that, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.